I wanted to focus on these two issues, which is food and fertilizer. So the third issue I wanted to speak about today, sir, would be on transfers to states. Sir, on the first issue of food, so the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution seeks an additional 23,641.28 crores under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Sir, this is important. This needs to be sanctioned. Sir, but I have a few concerns. It is not just about this supplementary demand in relation to this amount for this year. Sir, as of January 2026, as we speak, the food grain stocks in India, sir, are 59.45 million tons. So the required buffer norm for India's population would be 21.41 million tons. So, sir, we are having much more than the required buffer stocks, and I would want to elaborate a little to explain how flawed agricultural policies are leading to this lopsided development of certain cropping patterns and monocropping patterns in India. Sir, when we carry food grain stocks of 59.45 million tons, when India is required to hold 21.41 million tons, sir, undisputably this means that we have to carry additional substantial carrying and storage costs. We need godowns. We will need to ensure that the food grains are stored properly so that they don't lose. So this additional carrying and storage cost, sir, is all money that is going waste. Sir, because we have the minimum support prices that we grant to farmers and which is recommendatory, sir, I find that since this minimum support prices are being granted without a lot of forethought, this is leading to changing crop patterns and increasing monocropping, as I mentioned, sir. So this is resulting in India producing more wheat and more rice, including in states that traditionally have not been rice-growing states. This is resulting, sir, in India stocking up these buffers, while India has been slowly reducing, sir, the growth of pulses, edible oils and other things. So there is an increasing import bill. On one hand, we have an increasing cost in relation to procuring food grains that we don't need. And on the other hand, India is spending more money on importing food items and oil items that are needed for India. Sir, this needs to be attended to by the government in the longer run. Otherwise, every year, we will have the supplementary demand for grants in relation to food. Sir, usually, the Controller Auditor General applies what is known as a cost-benefit ratio. That if we are spending 1 rupee from the Indian government, what is the benefit we get? Sir, if we look at the two crops that I specifically mentioned, sir, there may be other crops. I'm not too much of an agriculturist and I'm not an expert. There are other people who know this more, but I'm just focusing on two for explaining the symptoms of the problem. Sir, in relation to rice and wheat, sir, we have to factor in first the fertilizer cost, and I will be dealing about that in a few minutes, sir. We have to factor in the MSP cost, which is higher than the cost that is generally available in the market. Third, sir, we have to factor in energy cost, because most state governments are giving power free by subsidizing it, which is not coming in the cost. Fourth, we have to factor in environmental costs. Sir, we have seen that in states like Punjab, now increasingly in Telangana, because people have shifted to this growth of rice in huge quantities with huge fertilizers that are being used, it is resulting in water depletion, it is resulting in percolation of fertilizers into the underground, and this is going to have a long-term effect on the country's health and also our environment. So if the cost-benefit ratio, one way to factor in the environmental cost. Sir, the fifth item is the water cost. Sir, I was attending a lecture by one agricultural scientist who is a very celebrated member of Niti Aayog formerly. He mentioned for every kg of rice that is produced, we consume 200 kgs of water. So if India is importing 1 kg of rice outside India, sir, it may be, madam, it may be more than 200 kgs. I'm being conservative. I do not want to err. So if India imports even 1 kg of rice, if India is stocking 30 million metric tons of rice, we need to recognize that each of these kgs of rice, India has wasted 200 kgs of fresh water. Fresh water is an area of going to be a great concern in future. Sir, if we add to this the storage and carrying cost, we will have what is the cost on one side of producing 1 kg of rice or 1 kg of wheat, which we are storing in our godowns because nobody is requiring it at this particular point of time. It is in excess of the buffer stock we need. What do we do? I ask myself, sir, madam, what we now do is we understand this rice is not needed for consumption, this wheat is not needed for consumption. We are giving it at a great subsidy for ethanol production. So if the procurement price of the central government is 1 rupee, at a discount it is selling this rice for ethanol production. Ethanol production is salutary. It helps us improve our self-reliability in relation to petroleum and gas products, but we may have to follow what Brazil is doing. We may have to grow crops that will help us increase our ethanol rather than overproduce 2 or 3 items, which we then pay more, suffer environmental consequences, and because we have no other option, give it to ethanol production. So the second item I wanted to speak, madam, I'm sorry, was on Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, because in the supplementary demands, it requires 15,000 crore additional allocation under the nutrient-based subsidy. Madam, you will be surprised that while India is highly dependent, and this is a known fact, importing 100% of potash requirements and 90% of phosphatic raw materials, the recommended nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium ratio for Indian soils is approximately 4:2:1. I repeat, madam, 4:2:1. But in agriculturally intensive states such as Punjab and Haryana, the ratio of fertilizer being applied by the farmers, I remind everyone, the requirement is 4:2:1. The application ratio is 30:10:1. We are providing more than 7 times the required ratio or 5 times the required ratio because the farmers have not been properly trained, and this is because we have not incentivized the farmers. The fertilizer subsidy is being given to the fertilizer manufacturers. We are not applying a cost benefit ratio and giving this fertilizer benefit directly to the farmers, which is resulting in farmers getting these fertilizers and using them indiscriminately. This is leading to a burden on our cost. It is leading to a burden on our budget. Every year we spend money on the supplementary demands on fertilizer. If we are able to have a 5-year or 10-year plan where over a period of time we reduce these costs on food, we reduce these costs on fertilizer, at this point it makes good politics because nobody wants to say anything against farmers' interests. I am not speaking against farmers' interests. I am saying please protect the farmers. But while you protect the farmers, if we can save these costs, each of these amounts can be used by India for education, for health, for our defense. Madam, the third issue on which I wanted to speak is transfers to states. Madam, in this supplementary budget, demand for grants, I noticed that certain amount that is sought is for transfers to states in relation to rural local bodies and urban local bodies. I recognize, madam, that I am speaking in the Council of States. But it's been a long time since I have heard a meaningful debate, and I am being very honest about this council speaking about states' interests. Everybody is parroting the party lines. There is absolutely no clarity between the national interest, the center's interest, union's interest, and state interest. Both are in national interest. I am happy the central government is making these allocations to the state governments for urban local bodies and rural local bodies, because the central government recognizes that the states are not making adequate provision for them. Very few states have a planning for urban cities. 40% of India is going to be living in urban cities, but many states are not bothered about having a plan. They are only concerned about 5-year elections. We win the elections, we get past these elections, we will see in the next elections. There needs to be a forward-looking plan that needs to be done. But the central government, I would want to remind that this cannot be a long-term plan. I understand they're doing this because states are not doing their duty. Please incentivize states in a different mechanism when you are providing for the sharing of the tax resources to states that are making these provisions rather than you give it out, because when you give it out, and I must again say this with candidness, that you give it out to the states where you are in power in the state. This is not the right way of giving it out. The statistics show that this is being done in a partisan manner. The best way is please encourage the states to do it and you make allocations. Madam, I recognize that maybe the BJP ruled states are fiscally the best and most responsible states. I am not from that party, but while I say that, I am saying please incentivize every party to have a fiscal responsibility by giving more rather than looking at electoral benefits and trying to allocate resources. Madam, I have 1-2 other points to say, but I want to be mindful and stay within my time. I am thankful for the opportunity granted to me.
Shriman